Back to basics. Let's take a close look at how the club works. Is your club at its best? If we look at most clubs today, we see a number of common symptoms that they share. Are you having difficulty finding volunteers? Is it harder and harder to find enough people to staff the clubhouse? Do you have a referee for every single match? And are there enough parents to drive kids to and from the matches? Do you sometimes feel like you lose as much ground as you gain? Now, despite all that, we're still managing to make it happen. But if we look at stress levels, the situation is not as positive and healthy as it looks from a distance. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through my analysis of how we can make club life healthier. And instead of treating the symptoms, we're going to try a fundamentally different approach. Most clubs started in a completely different time in society. They date back to the days when the church dominated the village. The school teacher was a highly respected figure, and the country constable had a certain degree of authority. It was a very different era. Back then, the sports club consisted of a number of like-minded people who knew each other well and had strong ties. And all those members were more than happy to work hard for their club. Their club! And those hours you invested in the club didn't feel like an obligation at all. In fact, that was part of the fun. After all, it was your club. And of course, everyone showed up and had their say at a general assembly of members. The club was a true democracy. But today, members join the club with a much weaker sense of commitment. As a result of increasing individualism, the reasons why people join a club have diversified significantly. So consensus and commitment can no longer be taken for granted. In the precious free time we have at our disposal, we have so many options to choose from that the club is forced to compete with all sorts of leisure activities. In other words, as free time becomes more scarce and ties become more loose, people no longer automatically volunteer for activities. And if you ask them to do something for the club, the answer is often, volunteer? I don't really have time for that. To be honest, if I do something, it has to fit in my calendar. So the club depends on the efforts of a few volunteers. The clubs are far from democratic too. Democracy is falling by the wayside, with general meetings attended by merely a handful of members. But at the same time, members tend to have higher expectations and be more critical about the quality of the club. They act like customers rather than members, jeopardizing the original function of the club. Now, boards have tried to tackle these problems in recent years, but if we want the club to function properly, it would be useful if we had some control over the organization. And if we look at the organization, there are three aspects that need to be addressed by the board. Strategy: what kind of club do we want to be? Where do we want to head? Structure: who does what in the club and how have we structured that? And culture: how do we interact with each other? What are our customs and rituals? And how do we connect and build loyalty? The main challenge that the board faces is balancing these aspects in the organization. Lots of time has been invested in making clubs more professional, and especially by developing the structure of the club. Club support helps draft policy plans, structure the organization, and improve the football side of it all. Now, these are good initiatives to improve quality, but there's more to it. There has been a new focus in recent years on the strategic side. Who do we want to be? What are our ambitions? But the cultural aspects have been largely overlooked, even though they may well be the most critical success factor in the football club. That's the human side of it. Because a club isn't a company at all, one of the things that makes a club so unique is the fact that the informal side of the organization is vastly more important than the formal side. With all those efforts to build more professional organizations, haven't we lost sight of the essential quality of a club? It brings people together. It's based on the unifying principle of working together to make that club a success. So shouldn't we focus more attention on the cultural aspects of the club? Sure, that may seem easy to say. Haven't we been bending over backwards to cater all the members' various preferences? Train when I feel like, Football matches 4 times a month, good quality footballs, qualified referees, hot showers, great trainers, extensive lunch menu, no administrative hassles. Didn't we want to recruit as many members as possible and keep them all satisfied just to grow bigger? We sound like a company, but the club isn't a company. It's not a supermarket where you can pick and choose whatever you like and leave the rest. And the members aren't consumers whose only responsibility is to pay on their way out. You want it? We got it. No! The club is a community, working together to achieve a common goal. Everyone supports the club and does his bit. Now that means that we should value that cultural aspect even more. It doesn't have to be terribly complex. It's not higher mathematics. It's those simple little details that often make the difference. Now, successful managers make it happen by giving people attention, and especially by expressing appreciation, making contact, and building relationships. They're able to make people feel like they belong, that they're part of what makes it all possible. Isn't that what we all want? And that feeling encourages those same people to do more for the club. All the research on volunteer work confirms that people are willing to volunteer for worthwhile causes, if they're asked. And especially if they're asked by people they care about, people they know. And couldn't we use this awareness to better advantage? Looking back, haven't we focused too much on the structure? Shouldn't we turn things around completely? Rather than treating symptoms, we could be a board that builds up the most important foundation of a club, the people. Focus on the sense of community of the club. Focus on helping the club community flourish. Once that's sorted, lots of other things fall into place. It can be done, but it takes time. And it starts with choosing a clear strategy. This is the kind of club we want to be. A club that flourishes, a club where every member contributes, especially that. And maybe the mission statement could be football with each other and for each other. Of course, it takes a good organization to make it happen. It takes a club that makes good use of all those contributions. But it's only possible if people are contributing. The good news, they're there. Sometimes they're right in front of you, literally. Now, that's why well-run clubs mainly focus on the people and how they interact, how they're committed and how they can participate and contribute. The people are the club. Now, that energy is present in every club, but it's not always used effectively. Now, you may be thinking, but I already do so much. But the point isn't to do more, but to do different things. Now, envision yourself as the inspiring leader whose main task is to make contact, talk to people, exude positivity, highlighting good things, express appreciation, make an effort to understand different opinions, but above all, building loyalty and commitment. It seems so simple, but that's the heart of the matter. You get so much in return: enjoyment, more engagement, and a flourishing club culture. And isn't that what it's all about? And if that's not your style, then find someone who can do that. They exist, also in your club. Connectors, enthusiasts, problem solvers. You probably know exactly who I'm talking about. Fixers, organizers. People who are so positive that they always manage to make things happen. Find them and use them to mobilize all that potential energy in your club. Focus on that. It will take time and it works differently in every club, but don't be discouraged. There's no such thing as the club. Long live the community.